NC State beat St. Louis last night, pulled away late to beat St. Louis. But because it was closer than expected, I have some questions about the rotation. The rotation was much shorter than we've seen from NC State. Basically, it was the starters with spot minutes for Ben Middlebrooks, who played well, and Michael O'Connell, who didn't shoot as well as we've seen him shoot earlier this year. Other than that, they did not go deep to the bench. And I thought that was interesting, right? Because if you're playing a team like St. Louis, no disrespect to St. Louis, but they're a mid-major, and if you're beating them by a bunch, that's going to change your rotation, right? You're going to handle it differently. But because it was close, particularly in the first half, I'm a little surprised they didn't, meaning Coach Keats, at any point in time didn't go back into a more normal rotation, right? And kind of, I'll explain in a second. But first, let's hear from DJ Horn, who social media is calling 3J Horn because he's knocking down threes on that first half that didn't live up to expectations.
DJ, looking at the halftime notes here, to go from 0-8 from the three-point line, then just to turn it on in the second half, what was the difference?
Really just having that experience, me being an older guy. Casey Marcel started getting it going. He's an older guy, just trusting our game, trusting our work, and knowing that, when those shots come and those opportunities present themselves, just knock it down.
It is true. Casey Marcel had a good day. DJ Horn had a good day. DJ Burns had a good day. And that crew eventually woke up and they won handily. So, you're not concerned about the final score or anything like that. Here's the interesting part. Here's the part that makes my antennas spark. MJ Rice, Mo Diarra, Cam Woods combined to play 9 minutes. Now, there's a few reasons for that, a few reasons why that could be. One, could have been it's St. Louis. We don't need them, right? Why play him? Both Diarra and MJ Rice are coming off injuries, and Cam Woods is obviously coming off the eligibility questions. So it's St. Louis. Why? That's one reason, possibly. Is it because that it was St. Louis and you're like, hey, let's make sure they're 100% healthy, so we're not going to play them regardless? And not saying because you don't need them, but because we care more about our ACC schedule, so we'll pass up on being at our best for a non-conference game in order to make sure we're at our best come January 3rd when the ACC starts. Maybe. If it isn't injury-related and you plan on depending on them later this year, I think you had to play them more. Now, if it's injury-related, right, if they had a bump, a bruise, an ouchie, an owie, a scrape, a strain, a tweak, whatever, all those words we use for minor injuries, if they had something going on, or if, they're not responding to the recovery as well for somebody like MJ Rice coming off a long-term injury, that's one thing that's in a different situation. That's a conversation between you and the trainers. You let that happen. But if it isn't injury-related and you do plan on depending on those guys later this year, I think you have to play them because at some point that chemistry has to be worked out. I think those three guys are good enough to help you. I know those three guys are good enough to help you. Mo Diarra, again, the injury thing is one thing, and I think Diarra probably was more of that. But I almost lean on this, right? Because Diarra was on the bench, 3 games ago, and didn't play, and Coach Keats said, well, if we needed him, he could have been available. Then the next game he played 4 minutes. This game he played even less. If he needs to get healthy, just don't play him, right? Tell him to put on a nice pair of slacks, a sweater, and sit on the bench and cheer his teammates on. Don't even have them in uniform if they're that close to being injured that you can only trust them to play 1 or 2 minutes. If he is available to play, if he is healthy enough to play him. And let him get out there with DJ Burns and Marcel and with O'Connell and with Horn and get him out there with these guys so they can figure out how they're supposed to play together. Because there's MJ. I swear it's once a week. It's once a week. I try to say MJ Rice and I say MJ Morris. State fans of both football and basketball will understand why I do that. MJ Rice is somebody that I think you're going to have to depend on at times. Do you really want them to be figuring it out against UVA? Do you really want Morcell and Rice to be figuring out how they play against UNC? Or do you want them to work some of those kinks out against St. Louis, knowing you can play a bad first half and then crank it up in the second half like you actually did even without them playing? Like, I look at this team, it's you know, if you pay attention, we'll use a fantasy, like if you pay attention to fantasy sports, this team looks really good. Right? If you're just like, wow, they got a really good shooting guard. Oh, look at that. They got a good center. Oh, look, really good backup big. Oh, look at this, really good point guard. But that's fantasy way of thinking, right? They have to play together in real life. It's not just, you know, like Madden ratings or you know, NBA 2K ratings where you're like, look at this. 87, 92, 84. We got a really good starting lineup. It's like, well, they got to play together. They got to know where the other's going to be.